this video, you will never know how much it helps me. Anyway, Eric Haider was born prematurely, tiny and frail, with a heart murmur. He wasn't expected to make it, but he did. As a child, Eric, who was deaf in one ear, learned to do something I really want to do. He learned sign language, and through years of physical therapy for the complications he endured as a preemie. But this tiny baby eventually grew into a strong 6-foot-tall man who, according to his mother, once literally gave the shirt off his back to a stranger who needed it for a job interview. That's who he was. His mother, Helen said, "He may have had a weak heart medically, but he had a heart of gold, and he cared so deeply for other people." Eric had a heart of passion for helping others, but his heart was still weak physically, and he did continue to have complications throughout his short life. When he was in just his 20s, he had several strokes, but he survived and persevered onward. At just 27 years old, a pacemaker was implanted in his chest to help with his heart issues. He would survive another 3 years until his pacemaker marked his time of death at 12:19 p.m. on May 24th, 2012, but it wasn't from his history of heart complications. It was a Thursday in May, just before Memorial Day, and Eric got buried in a trench 6 feet underground, beneath heaps of dirt at a construction site where he'd been working that day. His mother, Helen, said that ever since she almost lost Eric as a baby, she was always terrified of losing him. I feel like that's every mother. To lose Eric like this is unthinkable, she said. He defied the odds so many times and lived. For him to be buried alive, murdered, is just not something that we will ever be able to get over. Eric Haider, who lived in Bismarck, North Dakota, was just a few weeks shy of his 31st birthday when this incident happened. He'd started working with Covell Plumbing and Heating, and the company had been working on a sewer main project off of Highway 22 in Dickinson, North Dakota. Memorial Day weekend was fast approaching, but the crew of 6, including Eric, continued to carpool from Bismarck to the site in Dickinson. His mother, Helen, remembers vividly the last time that she saw Eric. She had just dropped him off at the pickup point for the crew. The last thing he said was, "Give me a kiss and a hug." And he said, "Love you, Ma. Talk to you later." And that was the last time she saw him. After a long day of work, Eric and the crew would usually be back in Bismarck by 6:30 p.m., where his fiancée, Jody, would be there to pick him up. But on May 24th, Eric never returned from the construction site. His fiancée would later tell police that she attempted to call his cell phone several times, but it just went straight to voicemail, which she said was out of the ordinary for Eric. The Dickinson police were notified, and an investigation was launched. According to a police report, the responding officer contacted the job foreman, Jack Bettenhausen, who was at the site that day. police, Eric was last seen in and out of one of the trenches. He was working to seal a pipe, and he was collecting various tools. The rest of the crew started backfilling holes. One coworker assigned to backfilling holes had a call marked on his phone at 12:14 that day, a time that the man said he was in the loader moving dirt. This phone call lasted 5 minutes. They told police they had not realized Eric was gone until the foreman tried to reach him on his cell phone around 1:30 p.m. During an initial search for Eric by the police, his phone was pinged in the area, which led to an exhaustive ground and air search that lasted for weeks. Mary Ellen said she knew from the beginning that her son had not walked off that job site. She said he never left. He was there, buried in that ground. I remember waking up at night for years, wanting to cover him with a blanket, especially in the winter. I knew that he was cold out there in the ground. That broke my heart. 5 days after Eric's disappearance, the police began excavating the construction site based on the directions that the crew gave them. We had been told and led to believe that a portion of the ditch had been backfilled prior to Eric's disappearance. Detective Sergeant Caitlyn told a TV station. We had already went further than the information we did have at hand. But they were digging in the wrong direction. On May 21st, 2015, 3 years after Eric vanished from the construction site, his body was found buried 6.5 feet underground, less than 10 feet away from where the police originally dug. According to the police report, private investigator Ron Switzer and his partner discovered there was going to be additional excavation in the area of Eric's disappearance to add drainage functions. So they contacted a cadaver team to come to the site. They convinced them to dig where the canine sighted. It was considered an unofficial indication, but whatever. During the dig, they discovered a red glove that contained human remains. Further excavation revealed the rest of Eric's remains, and then they called the Dickinson Police Department. We just happened to be fortunate enough to try and bring some closure to the family, Ron said in a statement. They needed some time to rest. It has been a tough go for them for the last 3 years. Detective Sergeant Caitlyn Klauser, the lead investigator on the case, wrote in a statement that positive identification was made through medical records, distinguishable tattoos, and personal effects, including his wallet and cell phone, found in the clothing on the body. According to a narrative by Sergeant Klauser, Eric's body faced a water pipeline, the same one Eric's crew was installing at the time of his disappearance. He was in a squatting position and bent over to the anterior side of his body, which is the front. He went on to state that Eric's body was positioned in a manner that was consistent with dirt being pushed in on top of it while seated near the pipe, or while it had been standing and it had been forced to the ground. Eric's yellow hard hat was positioned underneath his face and appeared to have been knocked off when the dirt hit his body. Eric's body was transferred to the University of North Dakota Forensics Lab in Grand Forks for testing. His pacemaker marked his time of death as 12:19 p.m., just 5 minutes after his coworkers began refilling the trenches. The cause of death was ruled undetermined. But the discovery of Eric's body was only the beginning of an investigation that would leave his family with more statements to the police indicated they thought he'd walked away from the site, upset over being denied vacation time, and that his death was simply a workplace accident. Jay Colville, owner of Colville's Plumbing and Heating, told the Grand Forks Herald newspaper in 2015 that he was very sorry to hear that the body was Eric. Hello, how many bodies do you have on your work sites? He added his company and the employees who were working with him the day of his disappearance had cooperated with police investigations. In the years since Eric's body was found, investigations have come to a halt. Sergeant Caitlyn said that a thorough investigation was conducted by the Dickinson Police Department and presented to Stark County State's Attorney Tom Henning. He declined to file criminal charges in the case, stating his decision not to file charges doesn't mean that he doesn't believe a crime was committed. Rather, that the nature of the event makes it difficult to develop probable cause for a case, as it is quite unclear who is responsible. Sorry, I hate it when that happens. With the decision Hennings made not to file charges, Sergeant Clauser said the Dickinson Police Department decided to close Eric's case. He added that anyone who may have information that would reopen Eric's case can call the police department. Eric's death and the circumstances around it have been difficult on his family, and the fact that they are no closer to an answer about what really happened has made it even harder, especially for his daughter, Bryn Hastings. Bryn was just 12 years old when her father went missing, and when his body was discovered at the construction site on that day in 2016, she was there, along with her family. She was only 15. She said, "It was hard, but I don't regret it. I said hello and goodbye all at the same time." She posted that on a Facebook page called Justice for Eric Haider. This page is updated often with information about Eric's case and pleas for it to be reopened and investigated further. Mary Helen is still hoping for answers about her son's death, for her own peace of mind, and her family's as well, of course. Her mother, Eric's grandmother, with whom he was very close, never got closure before she passed away. She had heart complications like many people in Eric's family. But Mary Helen said her heart broke even more when Eric died, and the only comfort she has now is that they're together. Mary Helen keeps Eric's ashes in an urn at her house, where they're safe and warm, above ground and surrounded by love. "I couldn't put him back in the ground after we found him," Mary Helen said. "Never again." It's been years since Eric's death, and his family has spent a decade looking for him and then mourning for him, and they're not even close to giving up their fight for the ones that were involved in his death to be held responsible. Mary Helen says, "I'm not done fighting. As long as I'm alive, I'll keep fighting." Anyone with information about Eric's case is asked to call the Dickinson Police Department at 701-456-7759. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, "Shannon, this is an accident. Why are we talking about this?" Okay, I'm not a construction worker by any means. I've never driven a backhoe or moved dirt or anything like that, but I really find it completely absurd that this happened. They dumped dirt on him, enough dirt that he couldn't get up or move or wave his arm or make noise. I think it's very strange that the guy took a phone call while he was supposedly moving this dirt and backfilling exact same time that Eric had been covered, and this man hasn't been held at least sort of responsible. Like, is that not involuntary manslaughter? Again, I'm not a lawyer either, so I don't know, but I think it's very, very strange, the circumstances surrounding this case. I mean, how did they not know exactly where they were working on that day? They knew what day he had gone missing, and they don't have records of exactly where to dig back up. Was someone trying to lead them astray? I mean, they were close, but not close enough, and it just makes me sad. I'm very, very glad that they found him and that his family has him and he's safe and warm above ground. For years after my father's death, my stepmom chose to, this is irrelevant, but have him buried and not cremated, and I swore I could hear him yelling at me, and I worried the same thing as Mary Ellen, Eric's mother, that he was cold in the ground, so I completely sympathize with that. I'm sad for his children. I'm sad for him to have overcome so much in his life, and for it to be ended almost before it could really begin. Anyway, please tell me down below if you think this was a murder or an accident, and if you like cases like this to be covered here on GeekWares ASMR. I am already planning for spooky season, for Spooktober here on the channel, and I have a couple plans, and I would love to know what you would like to see this time. I know it is really not some of your cups of tea, which I find really funny. You're really into true crime, but you're not into spooky stuff. So again, I will have true crime content at least once a week for all of you, so you're not missing out on any content that way. But I have an idea that's also going to involve my Patreon page, so I think that might be part of what I do. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. There's been a lot going on in my life lately, extra stuff other than just working, so I've been trying